What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to SSPN. This is our first official podcast episode, Jude. We're getting away from our recaps and we're getting into a little bit of a longer episode here, discussing all things San Antonio Spurs. I'm, of course, here with my partner in crime, Jude McClaren. Jude, how are you doing this morning?
I'm good, man. I slept through the alarm to do this, and then, I had to make you wait a little bit longer. So, I'm just grateful that you haven't ended the Zoom call.
I would never end the Zoom call, Jude. I would wait for you forever and ever.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah. We're going to break down all things San Antonio Spurs, overall season stuff, what we've seen for the past couple of weeks, and looking forward to next week as well. But first, we want you guys to get to know us a little bit more as San Antonio Spurs fans. So, Jude, I'm going to ask you, who's your favorite Spurs of all time?
Okay, so this is a really tough one because I feel like everybody's is kind of Timmy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like everybody's is kind of Timmy, but I feel like also people have like a personal connection with people. They have a player that maybe like really encapsulated their view, or really kind of got them into basketball, I guess. And for me, that player is Manu Ginobili. I remember being 5 years old. I was living in Mississippi at the time because my dad was in the military. And of course, his favorite player was Ginobili. So he would tell me, oh, watch this guy. But then the thing about Ginobili is when Ginobili would come out of nowhere. So, you'd be watching the game and you'd be like, okay, who is this guy talking about? He doesn't even start, and I'm only like 5, so I don't understand it that much. So those are kind of the thoughts that I have, right? Like, he can't even be that good. He doesn't even start. And of course, like I said, my 5-year-old brain doesn't understand, what Manu Ginobili is and how, that whole system operated. And I see him come off the bench and do just crazy stuff. Like Manu is the type of player who would make you he would get your blood pressure up. He would make you hold your breath, like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
And then he would just make the most amazing play. And sometimes you would be like, oh my God, what are you doing? And then he would make, it would be a turnover or something. So I think just the way that Manu captivated your attention in a game, you know what I'm saying? And I think him coming off the bench added to that. So the way that he captivated my attention, and really kind of as a little kid, made me really fall in love with basketball. That he's my favorite Spur of all time. But and at the same time, it's kind of like Timmy's, he's on the throne above everybody else. So you got to give a shout out to Timmy. But my personal probably favorite Spur of all time is Manu, just because he made me really keep coming back and watching as a little kid. So.
Understandably so. Manu Ginobili was that spark off the bench that we are so desperately missing currently.
Mm-hmm.
And if I had to pick a favorite for myself, excluding the big three and David Robinson, I might have to go with Boris Diaw.
Okay.
Because I watched the Spurs before 2013,
no, I like that.
On and off, but I consistently watched them starting in 2013. And Boris Diaw, how he plays the game is how I tried to play when I played pickup basketball. He influenced my style of play, if you can even call it that, because I'm so unathletic and short. But pump fakes, passing the ball, giving up the rock. He epitomized what it was like to be a Spurs
Do you
player.
Get people in the post, Ethan?
I try to.
You give him that Boris Diaw post work.
That elbow high post, I get it, and I try and make plays.
You just go there so you can pass. You don't even go there to
basically
do a post move.
Basically, because those are my two favorite guys is Boris Diaw, and he's not a Spurs player, but Chris Webber, and they both kind of had that same style of dishing the rock. And he epitomizes what it is to be a San Antonio Spur, unselfish.
Facts.
Consistent, and he was a difference maker in 2014. Yeah, in 2014 when we inserted him into the starting lineup against the Heat, he believed he played the 4. We moved Tim into the 5.
Yeah,
that allowed us to combat the small ball lineup of the Miami Heat. And so
I just realized that was kind of our first small ball lineup. I know now we're really in small ball, and then we kind of went back to it with LaMarcus and whoever was playing center there for a while. It wasn't. I mean, we had LaMarcus and Yaka, but even before then there was Dwayne Dedman or something. I don't even
Yeah,
know.
Dwayne Dedman. We had Aaron Baines for a little
Yeah,
bit before he
yeah,
was like
yeah,
respectable. We had
yeah,
Boban for like a year.
yeah. So so in that series, because Boris could hit threes, so
Mhm.
that was really our first time kind of going to that sort of lineup. So
You know what's funny? My dad hates Boris Dio to this day.
really,
Yes, he hates him.
why?
Because my dad is like, he can't dribble and move at the same time. And he's a little bit clumsy, but I
I
think he was
thought he could do
extremely
that.
skilled. I think
Yes, he was
he's
a great
extremely
passer.
skilled. I don't know who
Yeah,
was it that said he was the most skilled player he'd ever played with. I think it was Steven Jackson.
really.
He says that Boris Diaw is the most skilled player, not athletic, or maybe not as talented as some other guys, but most like solidified in his fundamentals is Boris Diaw.
Wow.
Yeah, love Boris Diaw. And Jude, who is your favorite Spurs player currently on the team?
Keldon Johnson. It was DeJounte for a very long time. Even when Derek went for 36, I love Derek to death too. It was DeJounte. But yeah, now it's Keldon Johnson because for the longest time, all the Spurs have needed is somebody who can dunk on people and scream and one. And that is exactly what Keldon Johnson does.
Yeah, I was surprised when we drafted him, I believe at 29th overall.
He was the SEC Freshman of the Year. Okay, now I
Yeah.
have to interrupt you. I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
Because I've just listened to like podcasts, or not even podcasts, but just doing research on Keldon and like listening about that whole situation and like listening to broadcasters or whatever. And apparently like the Spurs were calling everybody and they were just like, is there anything wrong with this kid? Like, why is he falling to 29? And like they even talked to like other NBA teams that like passed on him, and they were just like, no, we didn't have a problem with him. We just felt that the other player like fit our system more. Like, you know, they were more in that situation than where they were just drafting best player available. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And all these other, you know, like John Calipari and all these other people. This is what it was. I somehow saw like an interview with John Calipari, Kentucky's head coach, and he was like, yeah, nobody really had an issue with him. He just happened to fall to the Spurs. Like everybody loved him. They just picked another player that fit their team more. And, you know, like all these other coaches, nobody had an issue with him. So it's kind of like DeJounte. Well, DeJounte had issues. DeJounte was a literal gang member. But and I don't mean that as like, look, when you grow up the way he grew up, I might have done the same thing. Who knows, you know, but like, that was it. We've had 3 blessings at the 29th pick.
Yeah.
And personally, I think those are our 3 best players, ceiling wise right now. But anyways, yeah, just the fact that he fell to us as an SEC Freshman of the Year. He's like the only like SEC Freshman of the Year in the past millennia to not go in the lottery. To name a few other SEC Freshman of the Year: DeMarcus Cousins, John Wall, Anthony Davis, list goes on and on.
I mean, it's one thing that he dropped all the way to 29, but when's the last time the Spurs have drafted somebody that it hasn't? Okay, well, they usually draft international players for one. And then if they do draft,
they picked Luka Samanic ahead of him.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
The way.
And if they do draft a college player from America, 9 out of 10 times it's going to be from like a smaller school or someone that we've never really heard of. But we got someone from Kentucky, and Keldon Johnson. I knew that name. I was surprised he was still available, and I rarely know the name of the player we drafted.
I knew the name too.
Yeah, I was like Keldon Johnson.
The reason I knew the name is because if you play like 2K My League, which I know you do, Ethan.
Yes, he's always up there.
He was always like a top like lottery pick, and like, you know, because there are some people out there who create draft classes years in advance, and we're those type of guys to play franchises years deep. And I've actually drafted Keldon Johnson on the Spurs before, but granted, that was at like pick like 13 or something. You know, it wasn't 29. So yeah, I knew who he was too, which was wild.
Yeah, but as far as my favorite player currently, I mean, obviously I love Keldon Johnson for all that you said. He brings energy and potential to the team that we've been sorely lacking. But just to pick somebody different, Drew Eubanks. I know you know that, but I love Drew Eubanks to death. And you can criticize.
Yeah, nice layup. I mean, he has some ups, man, that I did not know about.
I'm telling you, this kid has a crazy low post game. People are going to criticize me for saying that because I know he's clumsy. I know he can be a little bit too aggressive. He legitimately goes for every single block. like, smart or not, like he'll go for that block every time. And if he gets the ball anywhere close to the rim, he's going to try and slam it down. And I mean, sometimes that makes it look really bad because he'll completely miss or it'll look just, gross. But he's got some game, and he's got some low post games, some old style, baby hooks, sky hooks. I mean, he's got some stuff down there. I wish we would give him a little bit more opportunity, but I just love his energy on both sides of the ball. I wish he would get more playing time.
I love the way he runs the floor. I love his athleticism. Yes, he makes mistakes, but he's still like 24 max. Like he may not even be that old. Let me see this.
Undrafted at Oregon State. I mean,
we saw Oregon State this year. Yeah, he's 24. I mean, this dude's 24. So, and just turned 24 also. So like another very young player. The other thing that I love about Drew, like he'll go for posters. He'll go for big time plays. That's something that the Spurs have needed off the bench for a long time. And when you get postered by Drew Eubanks and he's like screaming, it's kind of very demoralizing for the other team because you're like, I just got dunked on by this dude named Drew Eubanks. He's super pale. Like, and so that's also a momentum builder for the team. And I was going to say something else about him, but I forget. But I really like him as a player too. I'm glad that Pop, the one thing for all the criticism we may give Pop later in this show, he found a diamond in the rough there. He played on a 2-way contract for, however many years, stuck around, earned his contract here. And I'm really glad we have him.
He dominated the G League. I know that's the G League lesser competition.
I mean, but so did Keldon. You know what I'm saying? Like,
if you go look up his stats, I mean, he was like our number one option, and he was just murdering people. And he murdered, was it Thanasis Antetokounmpo
in the bubble?
He just, I don't know.
He murdered somebody else this year too. Not literally, but
he's got some good highlights in there. For sure. And imagine if you put his motor in Jakob Poeltl.
Exactly.
That would be I wish they could do like fusion from Dragon Ball Z and become one. Because that
speaking of our two players, now I'm already thinking, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. I need to see a Drew Eubanks, Keldon Johnson front court. I know that you don't want to play Keldon at the 4, but hey, look, maybe we're playing the Rockets or something, or a team that runs small ball where it'll work. And let's run a Drew Eubanks, Keldon Johnson front court with like Lonnie, DeJounte, and Derek.
Ooh, when they're in the lineup together, they've done it a couple times with Drew and Keldon. The energy just skyrockets.
Exactly.
And they're running so fast down the court. And when we could play up tempo.
And you saw the other 3 people I put in that lineup too.
Yeah. Oh yeah. DeJounte, Derek, and Lonnie.
Yep.
That's an athletic team. That's a very athletic team. Moving on to our next question for you, Jude. Who's been the MVP for the team thus far?
So, I'd want to go with, somebody. I honestly, I kind of want to go with Keldon, but in just all objectivity, it's DeMar. I mean, I don't know. That's just my opinion. Like, he's just consistently. I mean, I know these past 2 weeks, maybe not, but for the season overall, he's really changed up his play style. He's let, I remember the Charlotte game before the whole Rona thing when Derek and DeJounte both dropped 25 and 26. He had 8 points and 8 assists, went 3 for 5 shooting, and just let the game come to him. And in that game, deep when we needed him, he hit a shot, like late whenever we needed him to hit a shot. And even before then, he had hit some shots to win the game whenever he had like 30. So I just think that with the way that he's been playing this year, the way he's adjusted his play style, I know the past 2 weeks haven't gone well for him, but the past 2 weeks haven't gone well for really anybody on the roster. So I'm going to go with DeMar.
That's a smart choice. I mean, DeMar's averaging 21, 4 and 7, and a steal a game. A very efficient shooter. He's really improved from the free throw line this season. If you take him off the team, I could definitely see us not even being in playoff contention, in all honesty. Like you said, it's been a rough couple of weeks for him, though. So I don't know if you could tell, but his body language, I feel like, has been off a little bit. He's getting a little bit frustrated.
We can talk about that too. I want to talk about him and Rudy and the veterans' body language just here in a second.
Okay, yeah, for sure. We can just do it right now if you want to.
Okay. I know we have a schedule, but I know
No,
that
nice fresh. Let's go for it.
this is what this is for, because we wanted to talk about that in the last episode,
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't really have a chance. So here, I'll let you go ahead since I brought it up.
Yeah, we were just talking after we ended the recap for the Nuggets and Spurs game Wednesday, I believe, and we both felt like DeMar and Rudy and Patty, even a little bit to an extent, their body language has been off the last couple of weeks as we've continued to lose games and kind of let leads go late in like the third quarter and fourth quarter and stuff like that. And they just seem very frustrated with how the team's been playing. And I mean, in all honesty, this could just be something like refereeing or maybe Pop called a play they didn't agree with, but something's definitely off. And I don't know how we can fix it necessarily, but it could be that they really just don't want to be in San Antonio anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the case. I think it could be the case, like you said, and I think we even that it could very well be the case. But I guess the way that I would kind of think about it right now is similar to what you said, but just in the fact that these dudes, like, when we were winning games, this wasn't happening. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now that things have gone downhill, there's this kind of frustration. And I think the difference with this little stretch is that it's kind of been the same from game to game. Like you said, this has continued, because I remember whenever, I forget when it was, we got blown out by somebody. And then the very next game, we came out and played pissed off, and it was against the Bulls. It was against the Bulls with Vucevic. I don't know who we got blown out by.
Philly, I think.
Philly. Okay, yeah. We got blown out by Philly the game before, and we came out pissed off. Like, that was the best way that I could describe it. And we were just smacking them, right? And obviously it was their first game together, so it was a good game to take advantage of, right? Especially when you add a player like Vuce, yes, it's a lot of talent, but also they didn't have a post big like that. So they're kind of adjusting their offense. But kind of since this last stretch of games, it was like there was a game, I don't know when it was, but when we went on the losing streak, it was like the first game after or something. Like, we came out and kind of looks like that. And then we gave up the lead. We didn't keep the lead. We got smacked up, and then it just went away. And it hasn't come back ever since. And that's what's a little bit concerning. Like you said, if these dudes, the fight isn't coming back. And I think a lot of that might have to do with that every vet on this roster, every vet is they're on an expiring contract. So like, and I guarantee you, and we haven't really had a chance to get in depth on this, but my prediction for this offseason is that all the vets leave. Everybody gone. Maybe Patty stays. I would be very surprised if any of them stay, though. I would be very surprised, because Patty can go get more money on a contender. DeMar can go get, I don't think that we're going to give him what he wants. He just wants a max contract somewhere. He can go to Sacramento and get that or something, or God forbid, maybe even go back to Toronto. I would actually, if he went back to Toronto, I would actually be really happy for him. I would be really happy for him anywhere he went. He was in a crappy situation, and he did what he could for us. And Rudy, I think Rudy's given it, he's given it his go, because Rudy came here when Kawhi was still here, dude. Like, we got to think about that.
He thought he was going to be a 6-man with Kawhi and LaMarcus.
Yes, and DeJounte and
Manu was still here.
Yes, exactly. Like, I think maybe Tony was still on the roster at that point. I think know.
So.
But it was just very different situation. And like, I know we're talking about these guys and we're kind of like, I'm not even trying to like criticize their body language, to be honest, because they're in a tough situation. Like, the Spurs, I think this year have finally just realized that, like, okay, we got to move into this new style of basketball. We are, who did we just give contracts to in the past 2 years? We gave a 4-year, $64 million deal to DeJounte Murray, and then we gave a 4-year, $72 million deal to Derek White. Those are the two dudes who, if you're giving them that type of money, and I know it's still, like, in our opinion, that's kind of like a steal for them, those are your leaders. And so I feel like this past stretch of games, it's like, I think it's just getting frustrating. I mean, I think it's frustrating losing in general, but the way that the body language hasn't changed, how it's consistently been the same, and I get that it is frustrating, but that's what concerns me to make me think that they're like, we're on our way out anyway.
Yeah. And I brought up the instance, there was an example of the body language for people that think maybe we don't have evidence of this, but there's a specific part where DeMar got stripped from the ball, and I think he maybe thought he should have been fouled, but there was a fast break, and instead of getting back on D or at least jogging down the court, he like lifted his hands up and dropped his head down like that and just stood on their side of the court while there was a 4-on-5 fast break the other way, and the Nuggets got an easy layup. And it's just, that's not the Spurs way. You run back, and get on D. And I don't necessarily blame him because these losses aren't entirely on him.
Mm-mm.
And this brings us into our next topic, which is how would you, Jude, adjust the lineups? Because we both agree that a big part of the issue has been Pop's decisions with the rotations.
So keep the bench with the bench and keep the starters with the starters. Or just keep the young guys with the young guys and keep the old dudes with the old dudes. Like, if any starter is going to play with Rudy Gay and Patty Mills, that needs to be DeMar DeRozan. In my opinion, that's the only person. But I mean, and I guess we look at the rest of the roster and there are still 2 spots in that lineup that you need to fill. But here's what I do is maybe just, if I don't mind leaving DeMar in when the rest of the starting lineup goes out. Mm-hmm. But okay, so if you're going to go vets, you can go, well, I can't think of a 2 guard now because Lonnie's hurt.
Yeah, well, but Devin, I think it's Devin as well.
Yeah, okay, so I'm fine with this off the bench. Patty Mills, Devin Vassell, DeMar DeRozan, Rudy Gay, and Gorgie Jang. Because then at least, Devin can be a floor spacer for those guys and play good defense. So that's what I feel like if you're going to leave DeMar in, which they usually do in the first quarter, that's what I feel like the lineup should be off the bench. And then maybe, eventually you take him out. And honestly, at this point, you know what I would do when you take him out? I would throw in Luka Samanic. That's who I would throw in as your main, like, obviously, usually it would be probably throw in, Lonnie. That's what it was in the past. And so you'd have Lonnie, Devin, Rudy as kind of your 3 guards and forwards there in the middle. And I do want to play Drew Eubanks, but like I'm saying, I'd rather play Drew Eubanks with the young guys. That's, you know what I mean? So right now, and if Gorgie's hurt, so you'd have to play Eubanks with that lineup, but that's fine with me, like whatever. But just mainly play, like, if the offense is going to run through the vets, play them together. Like, don't play them with, I mean, maybe like Derek can play off ball, but really, and DeJounte can hit a couple wide open threes, but like those dudes are creators. Like they're creators off screens, and I don't know, they shouldn't be sitting in the corner. I mean, maybe Derek should on some because he's a great shooter, but even him, I feel like his full value, and he's at his best when he's moving and cutting and with the ball in the pick and roll. So I could go on and on about that, but that's my main thing. Like, your starting lineup, keep those, like, play those guys together. Like I said in the last episode, Keldon Johnson, DeJounte Murray, and Derek White, and even, and Jakob Poeltl. Like, or even if you want to throw Eubanks in with them, cool. But like, make sure it's the young guys. Like, don't, and like the only older guy that I want to really throw in a lineup with them is DeMar. And that's because we've seen proven success with him in there. I don't want to see Rudy. I don't want to see Rudy Gay or Patty Mills on the court with DeJounte Murray or Derek White or Keldon Johnson at any point. I just don't.
Okay. I agree with everything that you say, but I will make one change. And that is, I agree with the part where you said take everybody out except DeMar and then bring Patty and Devin and Rudy in with DeMar DeRozan and I guess Gorgie Jang or Drew Eubanks. Mm-hmm. But when you do that, okay, Patty has been off from deep. I mean, at the beginning of the season, we thought, oh my God, 6th man of the year. He's hitting everything like crazy. He's playing unbelievably well. And I understand that when he's hitting, Patty's a great offensive weapon. Let the offense maybe run through him off the bench. But right now he's been very, very bad. And you can just look at his plus minus and his numbers. They've declined significantly. And Rudy Gay, I used to love him, and I still love him, but he's not a spot-up shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to give Rudy the ball, you have to make him get in the low post because he's got that old man game. In the low post, I think he can be more effective than in the mid-range post. Because in the mid-range post, he's kind of now we've lost our spacing, and he's a ball-dominant player. He's not going to kick it out. He's going to.
You don't think he can play off ball anymore?
I think he can, but I don't think that's where he's most effective. So, in my opinion, the bench unit, when DeMar is in there, the entire offense needs to run through DeMar.
I agree.
And Patty needs to be relegated back to where he used to be, which is basically an off-ball spot-up shooter.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you give him a couple back screens and he runs to a corner. That's where Patty is. He's waiting for, the double to come on DeMar, and they kick it out to Patty. He makes a three. And if his numbers start to increase, maybe we bring it back where we run through the bench through him a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
But the bench unit needs to run through DeMar DeRozan.
I agree with that.
Because the starting unit needs to run through DeJounte Murray and Derek White. And so I think DeMar will be most effective when he's going up against the bench unit defenders, because now he can take over and play how DeMar DeRozan wants to play, which is a lot of iso ball, a lot of pick and rolls, a lot of mid-range jumpers. Feel free to do that. We need the bench scoring, DeMar. Go crazy. But like you said, the starting unit with all of our young guys needs to be a lot more movement. And DeMar is not a guy you can just sit in the corner because he's not going to make that three-point shot more than likely. Or he's going to hesitate, take a couple steps inside, and miss a mid-range jumper or something.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I think the adjustment needs to be. Just taking the ball out of Rudy and Patty's hands, putting it in DeMar's, and letting them play in the corner for Patty and in the low post for Rudy.
Mm-hmm. I'm down with, and look, I like the idea of Rudy in the low post, but I also like the idea of him playing off ball sometimes too, because I've seen him catch and shoot and make shots. Like I've seen him do that. Mm-hmm. I know he can do that. So, but I don't mind, like, because it can't be just a DeMar DeRozan pick and roll every time on the bench. Like it just can't be. So I don't mind getting the ball to Rudy in the low post because I know that he can make something happen there as well. We need another source of offense on the bench. So I agree with all that. And look, they're playing bad right now. So like, I'm not expecting that lineup to really go crazy or anything, but I just don't want their struggles to rub off on the young guys. Like if they're going to suck, let them suck together. So, yeah.
And all of this could change significantly if for some reason Lonnie Walker's been the key all season.
Yes, and he comes back and everything is just amazing and he fixes it. Is just fixed.
I mean, who knows? Maybe. I mean, he's definitely a weapon. I didn't know if he was that significant of a weapon, but
yeah,
maybe we're just missing that chemistry, and he's the fix. So take all this with a grain of salt. Let's move on to our next question. Jude, who's been the biggest disappointment this season?
That's an interesting question. I feel like a lot of people would say Derek White, but I feel like this year he's just been there were the injuries, then there was COVID.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that one of the other things we're learning is when is Derek really like shined? The playoffs and the bubble.
Yeah. So
I think that Derek is just, whenever it comes to like those games, I just think that he's a different player. I kind of like Jamal Murray, that type of. So I think that once the playoffs come or even the play-in tournament, all Derek's struggles are just going to kind of disappear, in my opinion, because I know what he can do. And then I also think the lineups haven't helped either. DeJounte's having a great year. Keldon's having a great year. Devin's having a great year.
I'll tell you who my disappointment is.
Don't tell me it's Luka Samanic.
No, it's not Luka Samanic.
I was going to say, give him more time.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a whole lot from Luka. I figured he wasn't going to get that many minutes anyway.
Rudy?
No, not even Rudy. This might surprise you, actually. But Trey Lyles.
Okay, yeah. No, that's a good pick. I'm with that pick too.
Because at the end of last season, he looked like he was going to be good.
Yeah, I agree with you. He was playing phenomenal. And then we tried to trade him. That's what I was trying to say.
Yeah, we tried to trade him. Oh, and he's not going to get any more minutes for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
But Yeah, I thought he was going to be our power forward, like starting power forward consistently at the end of last season. Yeah.
He's 25.
Yeah, and he's 6'10", and he's got size, and he was rebounding well. He was shooting very well, and then the start of the season, he just was not doing any of those things. It was horrible. I don't know what happened to him. I guess it was confidence maybe, or I have no idea, but very disappointing because he might, if he was playing as well as we thought he could play, this season might be totally different.
Yep.
You know, but unfortunately, he just hasn't lived up to the expectations.
All right, Ethan, we're going to have to cut the podcast short because I got to go to the restroom so bad. So we're going to have to end it, bro. I tried to hold it, but we're at 30 minutes on the timer anyway, so it's perfect.
Yeah, perfect. All right, let me do an outro real quick, and then we'll just call it. All right. Thank you guys so much for watching.
Sorry, y'all.
Thank you guys so much for watching SSPN, our first podcast. It's about 30 minutes. Hopefully you got some entertainment out of this and some information as well. Make sure you drop a like and a comment and subscribe. We want as much information from you guys as possible, what we could do better, what you'd like us to do instead, perhaps. We won't be covering tonight's game or this weekend, however, but we'll be back Monday, I believe, is the next game we'll cover against the Magic. We'll be there for a recap after that game as well, so please stay tuned for that. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'm Ethan Quintero. That's Jude McClaren.
See y'all.
See y'all. Go Spurs, go.